Shalom everyone to Living with the Times. This week's Torah portion of Vayakel. Moshe gathers everyone together and begins to instruct them in building the Mishkan. And Rashi already has told us that when the people will build the Mishkan, they will take as a free will offering 13 different materials in order to make the Mishkan. And Rashi makes a point of telling us that there were 13 materials to make the Mishkan. So let's just take a look quickly at the significance of these 13 materials. So 13 in Gematria equals the word ahava, love. And so the making of the Mishkan was a supreme act of love on the part of Israel. That we're told that everyone brought free will offerings, and Rabbi Natan, the main student of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, says that the secret of the holiness of the Mishkan is that when people brought these materials, they were bringing the best of themselves. The materials represented their love of God. And so when all the materials are gathered together, they all represented the points of love within each person. And therefore, when they were put together, the Mishkan became the symbolic vessel for God's love, because the vessel was full of love. And of course, the Mishkan also represented God's love. God says, "V'yasuli mikdash v'shechanti b'tocham." Make for me a holy place, and I will dwell among them. This is God's sign of love for the people, that He wants to dwell among us. And so this number 13 is really not just the number of materials, but it's the intent, the feeling behind them. And then we see that chronologically, when this is happening, is Moshe has just come down from the mountain with the second tablets. The first tablets, of course, were broken by Moshe when he saw them worshiping the golden calf. And all of Israel had to go through a process of tshuva. And Moshe spent another 80 days on Mount Sinai really begging for forgiveness. And in that process, God acquiesces to Moshe, his plea to forgive the people. And in the process, God reveals what are called the 13 midot of rachamim, 13 midot rachamim, the 13 aspects of compassion. And that God is showing that even after the disastrous sin of the golden calf, still tshuva is possible. And God is showing them by revealing 13 aspects of compassion that can be called upon at any time when the Jewish people needed compassion. And so the making of the Mishkan becomes the symbol of God's acceptance of the tshuva of the people. Because at one point, God, even though we're told didn't actually mean it, said to Moshe, "Please move out of my way, and I will destroy the people and begin a new people from you." God did not mean to do this, but He wanted to elicit from Moshe the Mesirut Nefesh that Moshe would be willing to give his very life. And that's why Moshe said that if you will do such a thing, wipe me out of the book that you have written. And so God draws out of Moshe his compassion for the people, and Moshe draws out from God his ultimate desire to have compassion. That is the essence of God, is love and compassion. So the 13 materials become symbolic of the whole context of the Mishkan, which is the context of God's receiving and accepting the tshuva of the people, the repentance of the people. Now, one last word that has the same gematria of 13 is echad, one. Now, of course, this comes in the most important statement of faith in Judaism. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem echad. Hear, O Israel, God, our God, God is one. And so the idea of 13 materials making the Mishkan represents that the Mishkan will be a place where God's oneness and unity can be almost tangibly felt, could be received by the people. It would be a place for God's oneness to shine through the temple to the whole world. And that's why when Shlomo, King Solomon, built the temple, he, in a sense, and it's written in the book of Kings, he basically invites the whole world to come to the temple, and he asks God, when people from all over the world come to the temple, please accept their prayers, just like you accept the prayers of Israel. So the temple represents the place where God's oneness would shine out to the whole world. And here, the Mishkan, the tabernacle in the desert, was the prototype of the eventual temple in Jerusalem. On Shabbat, at Mincha time, in the Amidah, the standing prayer, we say, Ata echad, v'shimcha echad, u'mi ka'amcha Yisrael goy echad ba'aretz. You are one, and your name is one, and who is like your people, Israel, one nation in the world? And so these 13 materials, which were given by the people with love, again, love, ahava equals 13, as a sign of God's compassion and the ever possibility of doing tshuva. No matter what we do wrong, there is always the place of doing tshuva and receiving God's compassion. And ultimately, the experience of coming to the temple was the experience of feeling and knowing God's oneness. May we merit to see the third temple, which God says will be called my house of prayer for all people. And that ultimately the third temple will be the place where God's presence will shine out to the entire world, and the whole world will be drawn to Yerushalayim, Yer HaKodesh, Jerusalem, the holy city. And at that time, God will be one, and his name will be one.